Hello, how are you doing this Friday night? I am not live from New York, but it is Friday night. Oh, that's Friday, Saturday night. Well, I'm live from Michigan on Friday night. And tonight, I would like to discuss an album that I've already talked about a song from. Earlier in the week, I recorded a video about Guillotine Blues, which is a song from the album To Be Young Forever by Jim Byron. Now the thing is I really wanted to give a historical background and shout out about that, especially around Holocaust Remembrance Day. I'm not sure if the video that I posted before this one was posted on that exact day, but it was during that time. And I have to say, I felt that in my bones, which is not abnormal for me with these things. So, speaking of which, welcome to Happy Medium Review, and I'm excited to do this. I think I'm going to make this a tradition to do a late night album review on Friday nights. Because when I was a child, I loved Friday night videos. And my mom, I'd go to bed until at 8, until I was probably 10 years old. Finally, when I was 10, she's like, you can stay up until 10 now. And I was so excited because I could watch the shows I couldn't watch. But on Friday nights, not only did I get to go roller skating, but I got to watch Friday night videos. So in the same vein, in the same tradition, I am archiving wonderful music. I am going to make that happen now. So back to the subject at hand, which is to discuss To Be Young Forever, an LP that paints a portrait of the courage of Sophie Scholl and the legacy of the White Rose Society. So I am going to start with the first song, which is To Be Young Forever. This album came out in 2018. And every now and then, I love folk music. I love acoustic guitar. Every now and then, you find an artist who you feel like you're sitting around the campfire with. And as much as I've listened to Jim Byron over the last 10 months, religiously, it's medicine for me. Healing, very healing medicine. In fact, I would go as far as to say it saved me anywhere from 15 to 20 years of the therapy. Helped me identify things that I need to heal. And this album is one wonderful thing about Jim Byron is they're a voice for the voiceless. That's one of the first things I noticed about them. And this album really takes you there. And you become an observer, a witness, to an atrocity. Yet, this album heals you when you're listening to it because it focuses on the beauty and not the horror. Yes, you have to imagine the horror when you hear Guillotine Blues, and you understand that they were sacrificing their life for the courage of their convictions. But nonetheless, this album, as it tells you this, and shares this legacy and story with you, makes me feel at peace. Like I'm sitting around the campfire with an old friend. And that's how this song feels, the first one. And especially because it has harmonica and guitar. You can practically smell the campfire with this one. So, To Be Young Forever, I actually did decide I was going to share lyrics from it because I love lyrics a lot. I have always loved lyrics. I live for lyrics. I really do. So, one of the lyrics that grabbed me from To Be Young Forever are, I love the person I have become. I only wish I could be like this when I was young. And that's very nostalgic for me because it reminds me, and I cannot tell you what the name of the band is. There was actually a band in town in Minneapolis in the mid-90s, 2000s called Liquor Pigs, who played it at Viking Bar quite frequently. They were a regular act there. And the words are, of course, I wish I knew then what I know now, when I was younger, when I was stronger. And so I believe this song, like, we start off with this song. And the thing about it is before World War II broke out around Sophie and her comrades, they were university students. And they were doing the rites of passage. They had a pretty good life, you know. So this song kind of sets the tone to kind of capture the essence of youth, to kind of bring us to the turning point of what happens next as the war does occur. So then it goes from to be forever young to be young forever to the foot behind. Now again, this song marches us right into the story because it is an album about the whole happenings of Sophie Scholl, Hans Scholl, and Christoph Probst. So this marches us into that story, and positively, again, and shows us that we're going to need fortitude to face this, and conviction and strength and courage. So the foot behind says, let me make sure I'm on the right side of the card. This song really reminds me of Bob Dylan a lot. I mean, a lot of this album reminds me of Bob Dylan. And not just the harmonica. Yes, of course, people who love folk music, and this is a folk album, are probably going to hear Dylan if they hear the harmonica, most likely. And I'm guessing most people who incorporate harmonica into the repertoire have a great respect for Dylan. In fact, I've even have noticed that some people who don't much care for Dylan are not very fond of the harmonica. Now, I don't want to make an overstatement, but that tends to happen sometimes. So this, has this a similar feeling. This whole album has a similar feeling of, it reminds me of Blood on the Tracks. Its tone and the era of that album. In this song, the foot behind says, I think you should take the foot behind it and put it in front. So basically, I think you should take the foot behind it and put it in the front. And like I said, that's where we begin the journey of stepping forth in courage. And that's the foot behind. So, okay, where are we on to next here? So, I guess I really wanted to talk about too. Oh, the next song is "Don't Turn Away." So I was kind of trying to decipher it, and "Don't Turn Away" is now going to be about we're in this, comrades, together. This is a scary situation to be in. We're going to stand up to Hitler. And this song tells us about the strength and courage of conviction it would take to stand your ground, and also not only just stand your ground, but not get scared and throw a comrade under the bus, but also draw strength from them and comfort each other in that situation. And during these times we're in, we may very well need that advice. And I am not trying to be dark here, but this is one of the reasons why this album right now is so important, because and that's why I even have this channel right now. I feel like music is medicine, and I myself had gotten into a frenzy on Facebook. Whereas normally my numbers are rising on my channel, I was getting myself kicked out of places for getting embroiled in all this. It isn't good for me, mentally or emotionally, to get so angry and like constantly be bombarded with vitriol. You start to absorb it. So to be able to listen to an album that's about something that would normally be very agonizing for me to face, but feel at peace in my spirit, really embodies this, like Sophie, and it really honors her spirit, because she wasn't afraid at any point. I don't believe she felt afraid to die, because basically she understood that by laying down her life, which is a song on the album called "She Laid Her Life Down." This song really honors Sophie Scholl's sacrifice. It's, instead of focusing on the gruesomeness of her death, it celebrates the courage of her convictions and her strength that it took to speak truth to power until the very end, and to stand with her comrades strong, and they were a united front, and they were able to even stand up to the ones who were going to execute them and say, today we stand here condemned, but tomorrow you will be standing where we are right now. And that's powerful, to make a statement at the time of your execution against your own execution. And not to flinch. And their tactics in the courtroom, if you watched Sophie Scholl the last days, were to terrorize them and try to break them mentally and emotionally. And they were doing that during the interrogations, the inquisitions, the third degrees, to try to get them to tell on their comrades. And they did no such thing at all. And I talk about that a lot in the first video. That's a big deal, part of it. But again, this album teaches us so much about something so heavy. But it heals us and comforts us and reminds us about the power of the human spirit. So, the other thing that this album really celebrates is following our conscience. And doing that, even understanding fully the consequences, and being ready to meet those consequences with integrity. Otherwise, it would be kind of null and void and never be a traitor to the cause. Because if you're going to lose your life in that situation, all you have is your word, your integrity to offer as a sacrifice. And that would be she counts the cost because it's going to save so many more people. And not only that, but another thing this album really shows us is to have courage for our convictions, but to be fearless. And not to be afraid of people who are in power. Because, that's pretty much what power expects from us. They expect us to either be angry, afraid, or full of rage. Not hopeful, positive, and true to our convictions until the very end, even when our very lives are on the line for our stance. And as the album ends, and the other thing I want to say is, beyond the sacrifice of the lives it saves in that moment, it inspires other people in the future generations to continue the work, plants the seed. And there have been many people who've spoken out against violence and war and spoken truth to power who have been assassinated and lost their life and stayed strong and positive. I mean, it took courage to be publicly outspoken to begin with. And in fact, you know what? I've struggled with that my whole life. I have been quite the radical. When I was younger, my mother was like, Amy, I'm afraid you have, and I was 14. So 1990 is when she started saying these things. And yes, I was watching all the Beatles movies and then some. And I was going to all the anti-war protests and saying no blood for oil. And she said, Amy, you have an FBI file the size of John Lennon. I'm like, well, Mom, I think you're being a little emphatic because his is like 15 pages long and most of it's blacked out. There's only 3 words per page anyway, so. Okay. How do you know this? Because I was at Mayday Books and I looked through it. It wasn't very interesting. Because, they can't give away their trade secrets, but they were trying to investigate. Anyhow. So, I don't want to get too off course. And all I said to my mom was like, okay, well, Mom, I think you're being a little emphatic there because his is like 1,500 pages long. Maybe mine's 15. Maybe. And, of course he is my role model here. So, yeah, I hope to get that someday. But I don't want to know necessarily. Especially now, right? So the way the album ends is the sun is still shining. Literally, in the movie. Sophie Scholl, the last day. The final days. They're taking her away. And your heart's breaking. It's so bittersweet. But her head is held high. And she says, this song, the last song on the album is called The Sun is Still Shining, Song 10. And as they're leading her to her death, she's still smiling. It's not fake. It's her. You can feel the heart here. Unaffected by their hate and their rage, knowing that she's doing what's right. And before God, that's what's going to matter. That's all that matters. And even her parents agreed on that. And we're proud of their children. Because they raised them that way. This, the sun is still shining, allows Sophie's spirit to continue to soar freely, even now. Now, I am very happy with this video. And the next video I'm going to do, the next music review video, distinct from others, I'm going to do will be 5 Dice, all threes by Bright Eyes. And then I've got there's a wealth of material here. So I'm excited to bring you more. So I'm loving these music reviews. They're kind of great. I love doing them. They're fun. I'm obsessed with music, so gotta get it off my chest. And this is an archive.